Hello and welcome back to Lisa Loves. It's time for what I watched in November. As you can see, the Christmas jumper is donned. We finished November, we're into December, and well, actually, I'll be honest, we're on the 30th of November. We're almost into December. I'm not planning on watching any movies today, so I can update you with what I've watched in November. There's quite a few, so I'm going to try my best to rattle through, but I'm sure if you're interested, you don't want any more info, you want to watch it yourself. So on the 1st of November, I watched a little horror called Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight. This one is on Netflix at the moment. This is one, let's see, a group of technically addicted teenagers find themselves in an offline camp. Yes, I remember now. This is basically just a nice little slasher. This is quite good. It's Polish, I believe. I quite enjoyed this. It's not very deep. It's not very... You're not going to have to use your brain an awful lot, but there's some really nice special effects in this one, and it's a nice little slasher. So for the horror fan out there, I would recommend this one for you. On the same day, I watched Missing 411. Now this is something that has been recommended to me numerous times by someone, and I don't remember who that is. If it's you, thank you. So I could never find this. I then subscribed to Amazon Prime, which is where I watched this, and voila. So this is about, in America there is like this trend of lots of kids going missing, especially like in big forest areas. Let me see. National parks and forests of the United States, and there's a real pattern to it, and it's like the disappearances of these children is completely unexplained. I wanted to do a true crime video on this, but it is honestly such an immense, there's so many. It would be really difficult to cover. I may try, but it's really interesting if you're sort of into the whole true crime thing and you find that sort of thing interesting and you don't get incredibly frustrated because there isn't an outcome at the end. I tend to be quite honest with you, but completely unsolved disappearances of really young children. Yeah, it is really interesting. I would recommend. On the 3rd, I watched, okay, yes, there's always one every month. Right, Royal Mail's going to deliver my parcel today. Great. So, Holiday. This is your typical, I knew what this was going to be like before I watched it. I wanted something just easy, brain dead. The guy in it looked quite handsome. I thought, well, that could do worse than look at him for a few hours or a couple of hours. So I watched it. It was very predictable. It had some nice bits in it. If you're a rom-com fan and you like this kind of movie, you could do a lot worse. This is basically about two singletons that are fed up being single, fed up with their mates trying to set them up. What do? They make a pact that every social event, weddings, all that sort of thing, they will be each other's holiday on holidays. And you can guess what happens. It's very, very predictable. And the ending is just cringeworthy. I noticed that my buddy Chris watched this as well, and he gave it the same rating that I did, 2 stars, and he is a really, really sweet, heartwarming type of person. I mean, I'm a cynical old sod, but I mean, he gave this 2 stars, so if that's anything to go by, he loves romance. He's a very romantic guy, so 2 out of 5 from both of us. 4th, I loved this film. I really enjoyed this. This is one that I believe is also on Netflix. It's called The Ghosts of War. I can't say too much about this without giving something away. I've said, starts a little slowly but well worth sticking with until the end. I love not being able to see where a storyline is going, and this definitely delivers on that front. So I very rarely write any words on Letterboxd about movies I've watched, but I felt compelled to with this, because when I started this movie it was quite slow and I was thinking, but I stuck with it, and it really is well worth sticking with this one. I loved it. Some people may hate the direction this takes. I was so utterly surprised by it that I loved it. Watch it, honestly, watch it. I can't tell you any more, it would ruin it. So clever. Also on the 4th, I watched Gaslit. I don't even remember what this is about. Yes, this is like one of those TV movies where this woman's daughter disappears. She loses her husband, her daughter did. This isn't spoilers, guys. This is like what you're told in the blurb. But basically she has to work out if she's going insane or if everyone in her life is hiding something from her, because she, in her mind, is completely 100% convinced that her daughter's alive, but everyone tells her that her daughter died in the car accident that her husband had. So is this woman imagining things. Is she imagining her daughter is still alive through utter grief and inability to accept it? Or is everyone in on some big plot to lie to her? Quite predictable, but 2 out of 5, it is what it is. On the 7th, The Secret, Dare to Dream. I don't know why I watched this. I avoided watching this for weeks because I knew it was going to be crap. I watched it because Katie Holmes was in it, and I think Katie Holmes is really sweet. This is basically a story about a young woman that loads of stuff has happened to. She's a young mum. Life is just dealt her a really rough hand, and this guy comes along with a completely, and it's not a romance movie, he comes along with this completely refreshing outlook as to life's what you make of it, I suppose, and the actual crux of it and how it ends and everything just completely spoils the entire message it's trying to give you the whole way through the movie. And then it ends and it's like, but you were trying to say none of that mattered, and now it's... If you like rom-coms, watch it. I thought it was pretty dire, to be fair. The acting was really good. You know, no issues with the acting. Storyline was just awful. On the 9th, I watched Emma Wants to Live. Oh yeah, this is one about, this is Dutch. It's about a Portuguese girl called Emma. She's 18 and she's been suffering from anorexia. It's obviously a documentary. Oh, how this poor girl, you know, how she gets, beautiful, beautiful young woman. You know, really pretty, not in any way fat, just normal, really pretty, but she falls into that hold, you know, she suffers from anorexia nervosa, and it follows her to a recovery clinic, and she is so ill. And she decided that she wanted to make this movie as she was going through anorexia, and it's really, really shocking. It's really disturbing. It's really moving. It makes you feel glad to be alive and not to have to deal with the things that some people out there need to deal with. And we need as much of that as we can get in 2020, as far as... I don't mean watching other people's horrible things, but what I mean is anything that makes us feel lucky, I suppose. And this certainly did for me. On the same day, I watched 3 movies that night. I watched Alison. I'm trying to remember what that's about. Yes, this is a documentary as well with dramatisation. This is one I may cover actually on the true crime one. This is about a woman that was raped. She was disemboweled. She was stabbed I don't know how many times, and she was left for dead in the middle of nowhere. And this woman survives, and this is her story, and this is how she survived, and this is her telling what happened to her, and about them eventually catching the people responsible. This is just jaw on the floor. If you saw this on a movie, you would say, nah, you know, you couldn't survive that. That's ridiculous. This woman survives, and this is her story. It's told quite nice. It's told like in the format of her reading a fairy tale book, and every person in her life that she encounters is a character within that book. It's just really nicely done, but it's a really shocking story. That is on Amazon Prime. 9th, Calm with Horses. I watched this purely because, you know when you sign into Netflix and it starts playing a movie and you know, you just like hear little bits of it. This one was one of the ones that was featured, and it was the narration that made me watch it, because I love a movie with narration. I mean, the master of it all is obviously Morgan Freeman. I loved things like The Wonder Years, you know, where they would narrate over. That's just, I love that kind of thing. But this is Irish. It's set in a sort of like a poor area. It's about a guy that's not particularly bright, it has to be said, and he is an ex-boxer. Darkest rural Ireland ex-boxer has become the feared enforcer of the drug-dealing Devers family. So this basically nasty family are using this big thick lump, for want of a better word, to punish people in really nasty ways. It's more of a drama. There are some bits in it where he is beating people up, which are awful. It's like, oh my god, that's hideous, that's just awful. But it's more of a drama, and it's quite slow moving. The guy that acts in it, he was a musician, I discovered. Cosmo Jarvis, his name is. And he's not Irish, and his Irish accent is flawless. It's not often I say that, because when I watch Irish people depicting Irish people on telly that aren't Irish, the accents slip a lot. this guy's accent is just flawless. So really good performance, but the story was missing something. For me, there was a bit of a heart missing from it, and I don't know, I think it could have been better. Really dark, gritty films like Trainspotting got it bang on, perfect. There's something missing from this, but it's still worth a watch. On the 10th, I watched 1917. This was one my husband Darren really wanted to see. I do like a good war movie. Saving Private Ryan is incredible. And things like The Thin Red Line, which is more drama based, fantastic. Obviously the Full Metal Jacket, Platoon, all that stuff. Now this was getting absolutely rave reviews. I was doubtful that it was going to be anywhere near as good as Saving Private Ryan. And I have to say, this movie is very much marketed that it's supposed to be one long take. And maybe that's why it's getting such rave reviews. This is a really good movie, don't get me wrong, but it's not outstanding. It's nowhere near on the same realm as Saving Private Ryan. There's another movie I watched last year, the year before, Hacksaw Ridge. That one is incredible, and it's actually a true story. So Hacksaw Ridge, Saving Private Ryan, much, much better than this one, but it was still worth a watch. It was still good. 12th, Odd Thomas. This was awful. What did I give this? Why did I give that a 2 out of 5? I've no idea. This is about a young man that can see dead people, basically, and he has to try and work out why he is seeing them. It's not a case of he has to help all these people move on and stuff. There's a bigger story to it. In a California desert town, a short order cook with a clairvoyant abilities encounters a mysterious man with a link to dark threatening forces. I'm not remembering an awful lot about this, to be honest with you. William Dafoe's in it. That must be the man I can't remember much about it. I think I gave it 2. Yes, I remember why I gave it 2. Because I thought the special effects were really good in it. And I do think that it will appeal to a lot of people. It just was a little bit too surface and vapid for me. I like things to be a little bit... If you're going to be a surface horror movie, be a slasher. Be something that wears its heart on its sleeve. Don't try and confuse yourself for something highbrow when you just aren't. 14th was... Right, okay, this was your run-of-the-mill thriller. Want it to be something like Seven. I'm sure there's a big name. Melissa George, Angel from Home and Away, was in this. Selma Blair's in it. Stellan Skarsgård. They make a big boo-boo in this, in that it's a police case and each person is mutilated, marked in a certain way. And Melissa George is a young detective who has joined a very established detective, who must be Stellan Skarsgård, to try and solve this. He doesn't want a new partner. Age-old story. He lost his partner. He doesn't trust people. She comes on board. The mistake they make in this, when they're going through photographs of victims, previous victims that maybe didn't die, one of those photographs is Selma Blair, who obviously is a very famous actress. So when they go through those photographs and you see Selma Blair, you know automatically there has to be more to this. Why is there a photograph of Selma Blair in there? She must come into this. So that's more than a bit of a spoiler, I think. I give that 3 out of 5. It was a decent enough watch. I really enjoyed the premise. I liked what the main bad guy was doing. I'm not saying I agree with what he was doing, but I like the whole premise of it. There's a little bit of Saw-esque about this, and you all know my love of Saw, so I did enjoy that aspect of it, but I did think it was a bit predictable. On the same evening, Secrets of the Saqqara Tomb. This is a documentary that is on Netflix about archaeologists unearthing a brand new tomb in Egypt. Really, really interesting. The most significant find in almost 50 years in Saqqara. Just really, really interesting about them unearthing tombs with sarcophagus inside and mummified animals, and they unearth a mummified lioness. It's incredible. So really interesting. I give that a 4 out of 5. On the same day, I'm trying to rattle through this, folks. Sorry, I know I'm ranting a bit. The Vast of Night. Right, I found this quite dull, it has to be said. This is set in maybe the 50s or somewhere around then. This is a young girl and a young man, not romantically linked in any way. I think she's a teenager, and they encounter a weird noise over the radio. that obviously, you know, no spoilers, it's, you know, it's pretty damn obvious that they think it's aliens. So it says at the dawn of the space race, two radio-obsessed teens discover a strange frequency over the airwaves in what becomes the most important night of their lives and in the history of their small town. Well, that sounds quite interesting, doesn't it? No, it wasn't very good at all. Again, I give it a 2. Why did I give it a 2? Again, the acting was really good in this. Just wasn't for me. On the 15th, I watched Archive. Yes, I did like this. This is one about a man that's working on AI, I think for the government. But behind the scenes, he's working on his own project. If you've seen the movie with Keanu Reeves where his wife, and I can't remember the name of it, his wife and child die, and he attempts to bring them back. This is very similar concept. This guy is trying to bring back his dead wife because he has uploaded her consciousness, her brain, onto a computer, and he wants to download it into something he creates. And he's upgrading all the time. Again, this is something that's pretty obvious. It's not a spoiler. The year is 2038. The tagline of the movie is "Death is not the end." George Almore is working on a true human equivalent AI, and his latest prototype is almost ready. This sensitive phase is also the riskiest, as he has a coal that must be hidden at all costs, being reunited with his dead wife. So that's the gumph you get on the back of the DVD. Or when you read, like, when you see it on the screen and you're like, oh, do I want to watch this? What's this about? That's what you'll see, so it's not a spoiler. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. On the 16th, Cadaver. Now, I loved the idea behind this. Every review I was reading was pretty negative about this. Is this one French or German? I don't remember. I watch a lot of foreign movies. It's very hard to remember, and I'm not seeing it there. Let me see the names. Oh no, it might be Dutch. This might be Dutch or Norwegian. Jesus, I'm terrible. It's a foreign movie. It's the future. There's been a nuclear disaster. Let me see if I can. A starving family find hope in a charismatic hotel owner. Lured by the prospect of a free dinner, they discover that the evening's entertainment blurs the lines between performance and reality. Will they wind up the spectators or the spectacle? So basically it is what it says, but they say that the entire evening is acted out by actors. The only way you can tell the audience from the actors is the audience wear masks. And just loads of stuff happens that they're like completely, oh my god, is this actually happening? Is this real? And obviously something rather sinister is going on behind the scenes. Things aren't how they appear. The idea of this movie is fantastic. The cinematography is amazing. How it looks is stunning. But the storytelling, the acting's very good. The storytelling is just, there's something missing. It manages to be dull, and it shouldn't manage to be dull. You could shave, I mean, it's 86 minutes long, so pretty short, an hour and 26 minutes. You could shave half an hour off that and tell the same story. They really needed to add something, or I don't know. It should have been better than it was. On the 16th, Possessor. Right, I really enjoyed this one. This is Brandon Cronenberg, obviously the son of the very famous Daddy Cronenberg. This is so hard to explain. Jennifer Jason Leigh's in this. I really, really like her. She used to be in everything in the 80s and then she disappeared. She's popped up again. She's not the lead, but she's got a really important role in this one. So Tasha Voss, an elite corporate assassin, uses a brain implant technology to take control of other people's bodies to terminate high-profile targets. Basically, she goes into their brain via, I don't know, she puts this helmet thing on, and there has to be something implanted in the subject's head, and they usually like capture them and knock them out and do this thing, and then she is in their brain. She basically is them, and she uses them to go on and kill someone for a high-profile client. But this specific task that she takes on, everything goes to hell. Sean Bean shows up in this. Sean Bean, yes. Bastard. He should, pardon my vulgar, it's just, you can't say Sean Bean and not say that after it, because look up Sean Bean, that bad word, on YouTube, and you will get a video of Sean Bean saying that word about 50 times. It's hilarious. Nobody says it like Sean Bean says it. So yes, I really recommend this one. It is really weird. It won't appeal to everyone. I loved it. I loved the ending. I just loved it. I thought it was great. Possessor. It will be a bit too odd for some people, but it isn't as weird as, let me think, what was that one by the same person that did Hereditary? Midsummer. It's not as weird as that. I enjoyed it. It was good. I'll tell you what it's on the same level of weirdness as. Have you seen a movie called Existence? I think it's a 90s movie. That's a bit odd. It's in the same level of weird as that. On the 17th, Tales from the Lodge. Right, this is a British horror comedy, which I'm not a big fan of, I have to admit. Shaun of the Dead is just one of the few that did it right. So this has got Mackenzie Crook of The Office and Johnny Vegas of all people in it. This is about 5 old university pals that go to a cabin in the middle of nowhere to say goodbye to their pal that has died. They want to scatter his ashes somewhere that they went together as a big group of friends and say a final hurrah, I suppose. So they do what you normally do in the middle of nowhere. They settle down to tell ghost stories and just to try and scare one another, and then it becomes clear that something else is happening around them that is perhaps not what they expected. It was okay. There were a couple of chuckles, but on the most part, it wasn't for me. On the same evening, Afterlife. Right, this is just a documentary about the afterlife. That could have been so much more interesting. I wanted to see loads of interviews of people that had had near-death experiences, but this was more stroking the ego of the person. Director Paul Berry, I mean, it's that age-old thing, is there life after death? And I'm intrigued by that, and I love to hear people's experiences. And given that it was a documentary about life after death, I thought that they would talk to more people, which they didn't really. It says the film makes the case that life continues long after our last breath, and that intrigued me, and I watched it and I was pretty damn disappointed, it has to be said. On the same day I watched Absolutely Anything. This is a British comedy with your man, what's his name? Simon Pegg. Kate Beckinsale's in this as Simon Pegg's neighbour. It's quite funny, this. It's a group of aliens decide that they're going to kill mankind, but they decide to give them one last chance. They are going to bestow a gift upon one random human, which turns out to be Simon Pegg, where he can have anything he wants. He can make anything happen in the world. And he does this. Great power, total irresponsibility is the tagline. Eccentric aliens give a man the power to do anything he wants to determine if Earth is worth saving. That's exactly what it says on the tin. It's amusing, it's, you know, it's very simplistic, it's quite interesting. It filled time, I quite liked it. On the 18th, Soul Survivor. Right, this is a documentary about, in the history of aviation there have only been 14 sole survivors of commercial aviation disasters. So it's basically the stories of sole survivors from crashes, and they managed to make it really boring. I mean, a subject matter like that, and they managed to make that dull. I don't know how, but they did. It just, I wanted to sleep. The stories weren't even interesting. I mean, I can't believe I'm even saying that, but the stories weren't even interesting. Right, I've just done that one. On the 19th, alright, I watched this over the course of a few nights. This is the Queens Gambit. I would never have watched this other than the fact it was a #1 on Netflix of what people were watching for so long. I'm thinking, there must be something I'm missing. So it's a series, so I watched it. It has got, what's that girl called? She is so pretty. Anna Taylor-Joy. She plays a female chess champion who lives in an orphanage. The janitor teaches her chess as a really young girl, and she grows up to be just, you know, a master. And this follows her life. This is set in the 50s. She's adopted when she's in early teens, I suppose, but that's not particularly a particularly happy environment either. The orphanage wasn't. There's a lot more to it. The performance is fantastic. The lead actress is just so stunningly beautiful, it's ridiculous. But I would thoroughly recommend it. It's really, really good. The Queen's Gambit is a chess, all the different games that they can play, all the different approaches to the game. One of the approaches and the methods of play is called The Queen's Gambit, which is where the name comes from. Really, really enjoyed it, would thoroughly recommend. On the 19th, No Place to Hide, the Rita Parsons story. Right, okay, this is a true crime story about a young girl who was 15. She went to a party. She was got into a situation of being so drunk she was completely out of it, vomiting. She was sexually assaulted. She was raped by 2 young men. She had no memory of it because she may have been drugged, roofied, I don't know. And then photographs do the rounds on social media. The young girl's life is just completely ruined and she kills herself at the end of the day about this. The shocking thing about this is the lack of punishment for the young lads involved who said it was completely consensual, even though in the photograph she is hanging out of a window to be sick. She's in that sort of state and the guy behind her's doing this to the camera. It's ridiculous. It's just wrong. So yeah. On the 20th, The Last Descent. Right, okay, yeah, this is a true story. I watched a documentary about this, which was excellent. It is a story about John Jones, who went caving in Nutty Putty Cave in America with his brother. He went home for Thanksgiving. His wife was heavily pregnant at the time, and him and his brother used to love to go caving together. So they do, but this cave that they go in has got a specific section called the birth canal because it's really hard to get round. And long story short, John Jones gets stuck in there, and this is a movie about the story, the true story of which I've seen the documentary. If you have the chance, watch the documentary. It's much, much more in-depth, interesting, tells you much more about what went on. This is more, I've written more a drama about feelings and imaginings than an interesting facts and mechanics of the situation. I recommend a documentary covering this tragic accident. I big time recommend the documentary. Like I say, he gets stuck and it's just, they didn't convey half of what went on with the rescue mission and the ways they, you know, the techniques they used and what went on, and really interesting story, but I don't feel the movie did it justice. On the 21st, I watched Run. Right, yep, this was actually okay, but very predictable. I watched this because it has Sarah Paulson in, who I really like. Chloe, a teenager who is confined to a wheelchair, is homeschooled by her mother. However, her mother's strange behaviour doesn't go unnoticed, and when Chloe pries into some private papers, she discovers a change of name certificate with her mother's name, Diane, on it. I'll not read any more of that, but it's basically, I've written the plot and ending can be predicted within 5 to 10 minutes of viewing, but solid performances make it an enjoyable enough watch, which I stand by. Really well acted, really interesting story. You will know right away what's happened, how it's going to end. In that sense, it's, you know, no surprises, but it's worth a watch. It's a good movie. On the 22nd, Open 24 Hours. Right, this is another slashery type, you know, survival story of a woman trying to survive. Decently enough shot with good effects, but contingency is non-existent and stupid lead female decisions are rife to the point of being laughable. That's my review. Like I say, the acting is fine, the cinematography is fine, there are some nice little effects in there, but it is a bit, you'll be shouting at the telly, what the are you doing? Same night, R.I.P.D. Right, I didn't finish this. This was, watch Men in Black, that's all I'll say. The fact Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges was in this, and Kevin Bacon, made me think this has to be good. I've written, WTF did I just watch? I was drawn in by the actors involved, even with the questionable plot. While it was watchable and amusing at times, I'm left wondering if Mr. Reynolds, Bacon and Bridges owed someone a favour. Seems to be trying hard to be Men in Black. It's about police officers of the dead, policing the dead and trying to go out and bring the dead in. You know, maybe they're supposed to have passed over, but they haven't, and they have to go out and catch them like they did with aliens in Men in Black. So, yeah, just watch Men in Black. On the 23rd, Phoenix Forgotten. I've written about 10 minutes of this is worth watching, and I'm being generous. This is a found footage movie about a true case of 20 years ago, 3 teenagers disappeared in the wake of mysterious lights appearing above Phoenix, Arizona. Unseen footage from that has been discovered, chronicling the final hours of their fateful expedition. Now, apparently this is a true story, but obviously the footage is made up. People say that perhaps they were abducted by aliens. I thought, oh, this will be good. The tiny bit near the end where it shows what could have happened is interesting. The rest of it is just so slow. But then again, I was in that mood where I was doing something else. Maybe if I'd give it my full attention, I may have enjoyed it more. Isaac was in the background chuntering the whole way through, so I didn't enjoy it, I have to say. The next one there, The Undoing, I can't review yet. I haven't finished it. It's a series at the moment on... I'm watching it on Now TV. I'm not entirely sure what channel it's on. It's probably one of the Sky channels. It's Hugh Grant and Nicole Kidman, and it's like a murder mystery. It's quite good at the moment. I think we've only one episode left to do, so I'll be able to tell you how that is next month. On the 26th, The Boat, as my husband, The Boat. This, I was so incredibly frustrated at the end of this because I didn't understand. This is like a survival story with one man in it. He goes out on a little small boat of his and he discovers a larger boat, seemingly uninhabited. He climbs on to see if anybody needs help, and everything goes to hell in a handbasket, basically. I'll not tell you what happens to him, but it ends up being just a fight for survival, and we're wondering the whole way through who's doing this, what's happening. And then it ends in a way that I'm completely no, and not in a good way. It didn't properly explain it. I could tell you something that would tell you what happened. I'm not going to. It's really well filmed. The acting's superb in it. The end is just incredibly frustrating for me. So I'll leave it with you if you fancy that. That one is on Amazon Prime. 27th, The Call. I give this... Oh yes, this is a Korean movie. This is... They're going to remake... This will have a remake. I know it will. 2 women living in different time zones are connected by a phone. When 28-year-old Si-young gets a phone from a woman named Young-suk asking for her friend, Si-young hangs up thinking the woman has the wrong number, but later learns that the call was coming from the same house 20 years ago. So we have a time travelling situation, like time... They're talking over time sort of thing, and maybe there's situations where people are trying to prevent things from happening and what will be the implications of that. This is really good. The acting's good, the cinematography's good. I really, really enjoyed this, so I would thoroughly recommend it if you can watch subtitled movies. I know they're not for everyone, but there's so many crackers out there, especially Asian movies. I mean, there's just an air of creepiness they do that we just can't replicate. So that's The Call. I think that one's on Netflix at the moment. The same evening I watched Travis, the true story of Travis Walton. This is another UFO one about a man, I think he was 20 something at the time, 21, 22, 1975. Basically this young lad goes missing over the course of several days. But the thing is, his mates are with him and they see him being beamed up into a flying saucer, and they say his body bends in such, it's almost like he folds in half backwards, and they all are convinced he's dead and they all run away. They're terrified, but he shows up again like 4 or 5 days later and he tells the story of what happened to him. And at the time, it was 1975, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have the widely sort of discussed what aliens looked like. But when he come back, everything he described was completely in line with what other people had said, that their testimony had been kept secret. It's basically about what happened to him and his life and his friends' lives and how everybody ridiculed them, and it is quite interesting. It's just, I haven't rated that yet. It's just, makes you think. It's madness, you know, when you listen to a story. I love anything about UFOs and aliens, I really do. 2 left. 29th, this was last night. Don't listen. This is Spanish. It's called Voices in Spain. Voices. This is... Yes, this is good. I'm thinking about it now. This is a story about a young couple and their young son. He's a house developer, they move house a lot, he redevelops, they sell, they move on. The young son has got some psychological issues, he's seeing a counsellor, and there is a tragedy that befalls the family, and there's a lot of like discussion about talking to the other side. They bring in an expert in EVP. This is just a really weird, creepy film, and it is a bit far-fetched. Some stuff happens, it's a bit like, oh my god, that's a bit silly. But the ending of this is incredible. I loved how this ended, absolutely loved it. To me, it was a good movie. And then when I saw the ending, it was like, oh, that's just brilliant, I love that. And it just elevated the movie. So that is also on Netflix. Don't listen, and it's Spanish. And if nothing else, the Spanish language to listen to is beautiful, so yeah. 29th, last one. I watched this last night also. I really like this. This is called Coherence. This is a little low budget movie, meaning that it's all about the acting, it's all about the performances. Tagline, nothing is random. On the night of an astronomical anomaly, which is basically a comet passing overhead, which hasn't happened for 100 years, 8 friends are at a dinner party experiencing a troubling chain of reality-bending events. Right, let me just switch that off. So basically, this comet passes overhead and they end up realising that there's more than one reality. They do make reference to Schrodinger's cat. I'm sure everybody knows about Schrodinger's cat. Basically, Schrodinger's cat is the concept that there is a box, and within the box there is a cat and a vial of poison. And if the cat drinks the vial of poison, it will die. But if the box is closed, you're still like, is the cat dead or alive? The cat is both dead and alive because both possibilities are possible. Until the box is opened, it crushes those two realities into one reality and we discover the real reality. So basically it's saying that two realities are possible until we discover the truth. Well, basically this is that concept blown up on itself, much bigger. Really interesting and quite hard to follow at times. You really have to be thinking and watching it carefully. I did enjoy it. I did like where it went. I thought the performances were excellent, but that it was needed to carry the whole movie. I would recommend it if you can sit down and pay attention to a movie and you don't expect loads of like really big stuff to be happening. If you like things it's a little bit, ooh, what's going on here? That's a bit creepy. You should enjoy this. I did. So that is what I have watched in the month of November, folks. Any recommendations for me? Hopefully you'll get something from there you can watch. What I watched in December will probably be full of an awful lot of Christmas movies because now December is upon us. I can watch my Christmas movies. Thank you for watching. I would love for you to check out my Vlogmas, which I will be doing on my personal channel, Kit and Caboodle. I will link it below in the description. I will be doing a very short, like 5-10 minute video each day of December, just of Christmassy stuff or whatever, just whatever strikes me on the day. So thank you for watching, and I will speak to you next month. Over and out from Lisa Loves.